Commander Allison Wright stared out the window of her small office at the Earth Space Center. The blue planet looked peaceful from here, spinning slowly against the black of space. She took a sip of her coffee and turned back to her computer screen. Another day of checking reports and signing papers. Her computer beeped with an urgent message. She clicked it open, expecting another boring update from Mission Control. "Commander Wright," said the message, "your presence is requested immediately by the Galactic Council. A ship will arrive in 1 hour to bring you to the meeting. This is not optional. The fate of multiple worlds depends on your response." Wright read the message twice. The Galactic Council rarely contacted humans directly. Earth had only joined the galactic community 5 years ago, and humans were still seen as newcomers, barely trusted with basic space travel rights. "This has to be a joke," she muttered. But the verification codes matched official council protocols. She called her superior, General Adams. "It's real," he confirmed, his face serious on the video call. "I just got word from the president. This is happening, Wright. Whatever they want, it's big." 1 hour later, Wright stood in the docking bay wearing her formal uniform. A sleek silver ship glided into the bay unlike any human vessel. It made almost no sound as it landed. The door opened with a soft hiss. 2 aliens stepped out. One was tall and blue-skinned with 4 arms. The other looked like a walking plant with glowing spots along its stems. "Commander Wright," said the blue alien, bowing slightly. "I am Ambassador Xir of the Galactic Council. This is my assistant Vreen. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us." "I didn't exactly agree," Wright said. "Your message didn't give me much choice." "Time is critical," Xir said. "We will explain everything on the journey." Wright hesitated. "I need to pack some things if we're leaving Earth." "Everything you need will be provided," said Xir. "Please, Commander, lives are at stake." Against her better judgment, Wright followed the aliens onto their ship. The inside was larger than it appeared from outside, with curved walls that seemed to glow with soft light. "Please sit," Xir said, pointing to a chair that formed itself from the floor. "The journey to Council. Space takes 6 hours with our drive system." As the ship lifted off, Wright felt almost no movement. Earth quickly shrank in the viewing screen. "Now," she said firmly, "tell me what this is about." Xir's 4 hands moved in a nervous pattern. "We have a situation that only a human can help with. Are you familiar with the entity known as Varaxis?" Wright shook her head. "Varaxis is what you might call a space god," Xir continued. "A cosmic entity of immense power that has existed since before any of our civilizations. For millennia, it slept in the void between galaxies, dormant and peaceful. And now it's not sleeping?" Wright guessed. "Correct. 3 weeks ago, the Council was testing a new form of wormhole technology near the Cygnus arm. The energy signatures somehow disturbed Varaxis. It has awakened and it is angry." Vreen, the plant-like alien, touched a panel on the wall. A hologram appeared showing a massive swirling cloud of energy in space, shot through with lightning-like flashes of light. At its center was something that looked like a living star. "This is Varaxis," said Vreen. "The recording was taken 4 days ago." The image changed to show a peaceful green planet. Then a wave of energy swept across it. The planet's surface began to crack, rivers of fire spreading across continents. Within minutes, the planet broke apart. "That was Nalara Prime," Xir said quietly. "Population 8 billion. They had no warning, no chance to evacuate. 2 other systems have met the same fate." Wright felt cold. "That's terrible. But why come to me? Earth doesn't have weapons that could fight something like that." "We don't want to fight it," Xir said. "Fighting would be useless. We need to communicate with it to make peace." Wright laughed without humor. "And you think I can talk to a space god? I'm just a commander in Earth's small space force. Our ancient texts about Varaxis speak of those with untainted consciousness being able to approach the entity safely," Vreen explained. "Our scientists believe this refers to neural patterns. All council species have similar brain structures, developed over millions of years of evolution. But humans, Humans are different, Kazir finished. Your species thinks in patterns unlike any other known intelligence. And you, Commander Wright, have an especially strong mental resilience according to the tests we secretly ran during first contact. Wright stood up angrily. You ran tests on us without permission? Standard procedure for all new species, Kazir said, unapologetic. The point is you may be able to approach Varaxis without being destroyed immediately. You may be able to communicate with it, to understand why it's angry and what we can do to calm it. And if I refuse? Kazir's eyes darkened. Varaxis is moving through the galaxy on a clear path. At its current speed, it will reach Earth's solar system in approximately 3 weeks. Wright sat back down heavily. I need to see more information, she said after a long moment. Everything you have on this entity, the tests you ran, and what exactly you expect me to do. Kazir nodded. Of course. Vreen will provide you with all data. But I must warn you, much of what we know about Varaxis comes from ancient legends. The scientific data is limited. How many council ships have approached it so far? 5, said Vreen. None returned. Wright took a deep breath. So I'm basically a suicide mission. The human sacrifice to appease your angry god. We prefer to think of you as our last hope, Kazir said. The council represents over 300 species with technology far beyond human understanding. If we could solve this problem ourselves, we would. The ship accelerated, stars blurring in the viewing screen. Wright felt very small and very alone. I'll look at your data, she said finally, but I'm not agreeing to anything yet. Hours later, Wright sat surrounded by holographic displays showing historical accounts, sensor readings, and scientific theories about Varaxis. The more she read, the worse the situation seemed. Varaxis wasn't just powerful, it could alter reality itself within its sphere of influence. Matter, energy, even time behaved differently near the entity. She watched footage from the destroyed worlds again. Each planet died in minutes, billions of lives erased. Earth could be next. Kazir entered the room. We will reach Council space soon. The emergency assembly awaits your decision. Wright closed the displays with a wave of her hand. I have conditions, she said. If I do this, I want a human team with me, scientists and specialists of my choosing. I want the newest, fastest ship you have. And I want a direct communication line to Earth at all times. All reasonable requests, Kazir agreed quickly. Does this mean you accept the mission? Wright looked at the final image frozen on the display. Earth, peaceful and blue, just as she had seen it from her office window that morning. Yeah, she said. I'll do it, not for the Council, but for Earth. Thank you, Commander, Kazir said with genuine relief. You may have just saved countless lives. Or I'm about to lose mine, Wright replied. Let's hope your ancient texts are right about humans. The ship slowed as they approached a massive space station glittering with lights. The Galactic Council awaited, and with it, a mission that would either save the galaxy or end in spectacular failure. Either way, humanity's place in the cosmos was about to change forever. The Galactic Council chamber was unlike anything Wright had ever seen. The massive room stretched in a complete circle, with hundreds of seats rising in tiers. Every seat held a different alien species. Some looked almost human. Others were utterly strange, from floating clouds of gas to crystalline structures that sparkled under the light. In the center stood a platform where Wright now waited with Ambassador Kazir. She felt small and out of place in her Earth uniform. Representatives of the Council, Kazir announced, voice amplified throughout the chamber. I present Commander Allison Wright of Earth, who has agreed to lead the mission to Varaxis. A murmur ran through the assembly. Not all of it sounded happy. Large alien with tentacles and glowing eyes rose from its seat. This is our solution? A human? Their species has barely mastered basic space travel. Senator Grell, Kazir replied calmly. The ancient texts are clear. Only those with untainted consciousness may approach Varaxis safely. Our scientists believe humans fit this description. Let the human speak, called a voice from another section. Let us hear what she offers. Wright stepped forward, her heart pounding. She was no diplomat, but she knew how to command. I understand your doubts, she said clearly. Humans are new to your galaxy, but sometimes fresh eyes see solutions others miss. I will need resources, a ship, equipment, and most importantly, a human team. What sort of team? Asked a small alien with blue. For I need specialists, a scientist to understand Varaxis, a communication expert to help make contact, and a pilot who can navigate in unusual conditions. The council debated for hours. Wright stood silently as aliens argued in languages her translator struggled to keep up with. Finally, they voted. The motion is approved, announced the council leader, a tall being with iridescent skin. Commander Wright will lead the mission to Varaxis. She will have the resources she requested, including permission to bring 3 additional humans. Wright nodded. I'll need to return to Earth to select my team. There is no time, Kazir said. We have arranged for candidates to be transported here. They will arrive tomorrow. Wright frowned. You were that certain I would agree? We were desperate, Kazir replied simply. The next day, Wright met her potential team members in a conference room aboard the council station. 3 nervous-looking humans sat at a table having arrived just hours ago on a fast council ship. I'm Commander Wright, she said, taking a seat. I know you've been brought here suddenly with little explanation. I'll fix that now. She activated a hologram showing Varaxis and explained the situation. Their faces grew serious as they understood the threat. Dr. Nathan Rodriguez, she said, turning to a man with thoughtful eyes and a short beard. Your work on quantum fields is respected even by council scientists. We need you to help understand what Varaxis is and how it affects reality. Rodriguez nodded. A living cosmic entity that warps physics around it? Fascinating. Terrifying, but fascinating. Wright turned to a woman with her hair pulled back in a tight bun. Grace Winters, first contact specialist with 3 successful alien negotiations. Your job will be helping us communicate with Varaxis, if that's even possible. Traditional methods won't work with an entity that powerful, Winters said, but there are always patterns in communication even with the most alien minds. The third human was younger with an intense expression. Alex Patel, you've piloted ships through asteroid storms and radiation clouds that should have been impossible to navigate. I go where others can't, Patel said with a shrug. But I've never flown near a space god before. None of us has experience. With this, Wright said, that's why we were chosen. Humans think differently than council species. Our minds work in ways they don't understand. Rodriguez leaned forward. Is this mission voluntary? The council officials who collected me weren't exactly asking. It is now, Wright said firmly. I won't force anyone, but you should know if we fail, Earth could be next on Varaxis's path. They all exchanged looks. I'm in, Rodriguez said first. Me too, added Winters. Patel just nodded. Good, Wright said. Now let's meet our ship. The Luminous Harmony was the fastest vessel in the council fleet. Its sleek silver hull stretched nearly half a mile long, with sweeping curves instead of sharp angles. Inside, the corridors were wide and the room spacious, designed to accommodate many different alien species. Your quarters are here, said Zith, an insect-like alien who would serve as their mission strategist. The ship can adjust to your human, environmental needs. Very comfortable, said Winters, running her hand along the wall that seemed to glow with inner light. Don't get too comfortable, chittered Zith. We also have Orb and Pelex joining us. More council representatives? Asked Wright. Orb is our intelligence specialist. They know more about Varaxis than anyone. Pelex is our navigator. Nobody understands space currents like their species. As if on cue, a blob of shimmering gel oozed into the room, shifting colors from blue to green. Greetings, humans, it said in a bubbling voice. I am Orb. It is pleasing to collaborate with your species. Following behind was a bird-like alien with brilliant feathers and sharp eyes. Pelex, it said simply, giving a short bow. Now that we're all here, Seath said, we leave in 6 hours. Our journey will take 5 days at maximum speed. Later, as the humans explored the ship, Rodriguez pulled Wright aside. Something feels off, he whispered. The Council seems almost too eager to send us on this mission. What do you mean? Wright asked. They're giving us their fastest ship and 3 of their top specialists, but putting a human in charge? A human they barely know? It doesn't make sense unless they think it's a suicide mission, Wright finished. Rodriguez nodded. Or there's something they're not telling us. Keep your eyes open, Wright said, and see if you can access their historical archives about Varaxis. I want to know everything, not just what they choose to tell us. As Rodriguez left, Winters approached with Pellex. Commander, Pellex has been telling me about the legends of Varaxis, she said. It's fascinating. Their people have stories going back thousands of years. Pellex's feathers ruffled slightly. My ancestors left many records. Varaxis was not always feared. Once, it was honored as a guardian. Guardian of what? Wright asked. That knowledge is lost, Pellex said. But the ancient songs say Varaxis was created to protect all living beings from a greater darkness. Wright considered this. Could that be important to our mission? Perhaps, Pellex said. The old texts say Varaxis responds to intent and truth. If you approach with deception, it will know. The ship departed with hardly a sensation of movement. Through the viewing windows, stars streaked by as the luminous harmony accelerated to speeds no human vessel could match. On the 3rd day of their journey, Wright noticed Zith and Orb having intense private conversations that stopped whenever humans approached. Using a scanner Rodriguez had modified, they discovered the aliens were communicating on frequencies they thought humans couldn't detect. Ancient contract must be honored, came one fragment they managed to intercept. The sacrifice will ensure continued, came another. When Wright confronted Ambassador Kazir over video link, the blue alien's 4 hands moved nervously. There are aspects of this situation that are sensitive, Kazir admitted. Varaxis was not accidentally awakened by our wormhole tests. That was merely when it chose to reveal itself. What does that mean? Demanded Wright. Something approaches from beyond the galactic rim, Kazir said quietly. Something that even the Council fears more than Varaxis's wrath. We need the Guardian, awakened and appeased. Before Wright could ask more questions, the ship's alarm sounded. They had entered Varaxis's energy field sooner than expected. The mission was about to truly begin, whether they were ready or not. The moment they entered Varaxis's energy field, reality began to change around them. Metal flowed like water. Light bent in impossible ways. On the bridge of the luminous harmony, warning alarms blared as systems failed one after another. Stabilize the ship, Wright ordered, gripping her command chair as the floor beneath her seemed to turn to jelly. Patel's hands danced across the controls. I'm trying. The engines are responding like they're alive. Through the viewing window, Wright could see it, a massive swirling vortex of energy surrounding what looked like a living star, Varaxis. Even from this distance, looking at it made her head hurt. Shields at 40% and falling, reported Zith, multiple limbs working different control panels. We can't stay here long. We need to establish contact, Wright said. Winters, any ideas? Grace Winters studied her readings. It's emitting patterns across all frequencies. Not random, there's structure here, but nothing like any language I've seen. Rodriguez looked up from his science station. It's not just energy out there, it's consciousness. Spread across space itself. Orb, the gelatinous alien, moved to a sealed compartment. We must deploy the contingency device. What device? Wright demanded. What are you doing? Orb's body rippled. The quantum detonation device. It will create a dimensional rift, forcing Varaxis into another reality plane. Wright stood up. That wasn't part of the mission. We're supposed to communicate, not attack. Communication has failed, Sith chittered. The Council authorized the use of the device if necessary. You lied to us, Rodriguez said, moving to stand beside Wright. You never intended to make peace. Pellex, the bird-like alien, suddenly spread its wings in alarm. Stop! The ancient texts warn against such actions. Varaxis is a guardian. The council has decided, Orb said, its body glowing with internal light as it opened the compartment and removed a small pyramid-shaped device. The guardian has failed in its duty. We must protect ourselves. Wright lunged forward, but Zith blocked her path. This is for the good of all species, the insectoid alien said. As they struggled, a massive energy wave hit the ship. Systems exploded in showers of sparks. The luminous harmony spun out of control. Hull breach in sections 4 through 7, Patel shouted over the alarms. Evacuate to the escape pods, Wright ordered. Everyone now! The crew scrambled through corridors that twisted like dreams. Metal bulkheads melted and reformed. Gravity shifted direction repeatedly. Wright, Rodriguez, and Winters reached a pod bay, but found only one pod remained. Most had automatically launched when the breach was detected. Get in, Wright told the others. What about you? Winters asked. I'll find another way out, Wright said. Go. As the pod launched with her teammates aboard, Wright turned to find another escape route. She ran through a corridor that seemed to stretch forever, then suddenly compressed. A view screen on the wall showed the ship breaking apart. She reached another pod bay just as the floor beneath her feet disappeared. Falling through open space, Wright somehow landed in a small emergency pod. She hit the launch control just as the section of ship around her disintegrated. The tiny pod shot away from the dying ship, but instead of heading to safety, it was caught in Varaxis's gravitational pull. Wright watched in horror as the pod accelerated toward the center of the swirling cosmic entity. This is it, she thought, closing her eyes and bracing for death. But death didn't come. Instead, Wright felt a strange calm. When she opened her eyes, she was no longer in the pod. She stood or seemed to stand in a vast open space filled with stars and flowing colors. It was beautiful beyond words. Hello, she called out, her voice sounding small in the infinite space. A presence surrounded her. Not a voice, not a body, but a consciousness that made her own mind feel tiny by comparison. It didn't speak in words, but somehow Wright understood. You are not like the others. I'm human, Wright said. We're new to the galaxy, images flooded her mind. The creation of Varaxis by ancient beings. Its purpose to stand guard at the edge of reality against something worse. The slow forgetting as those ancient beings evolved into the council races, no longer remembering their origins or Varaxis's purpose. Wright saw the truth. The council had been harvesting Varaxis's energy to power their wormhole technology, weakening the very defenses meant to protect them all. And now, the barrier between dimensions was failing. The void. Between thoughts, a predatory force that consumed consciousness itself was beginning to break through. They remember only fear now, the entity communicated. They see my actions as attacks when I try only to shore up the weakening points in reality. Wright understood the destroyed planets had sat on critical nexus points of cosmic energy. Varaxis hadn't destroyed them out of anger, but desperate necessity. They're going to try to banish you, Wright said. They think it will solve the problem. It will doom all. The void approaches. Without me, all minds will be consumed. How can I help? Wright asked. Another flood of images. The wormhole technology, altered to strengthen the cosmic barriers instead of weakening them. A network spanning the galaxy, creating a defensive grid. But it would require sacrifice. No more easy interstellar travel for centuries. I'll try to convince them, Wright promised. But I need to get back to my team. Your consciousness is different, adaptable, creative, where they are rigid. This is why you were brought. Not because you could speak to me, but because you could think of solutions they cannot. I will return you. Wright felt herself dissolving, then reforming. A bright light blinded her, and then she was back in her escape pod. But instead of heading toward Varaxis, the pod was now moving away, propelled by an unseen force. Ahead, she could see another pod, the one carrying Rodriguez and Winters. Her communication system came to life. Commander! Rodriguez's voice crackled through. You're alive. We thought you were gone when the ship— I'm here, Wright said, and I know what we need to do. She explained what Varaxis had shown her, the true nature of the entity, the approaching threat, and the possible solution. Re-engineering the entire wormhole network? Rodriguez said in, "Oh, that's actually brilliant. Theoretically possible, but the Council would never agree. They will when they see what's coming," Wright said. Look. On their scanners, reality fractures were appearing exactly where Varaxis had predicted. Thin spots between dimensions where something dark was pushing through. We need to find the others and get back to the Council, Wright said. We have work to do. Their pods drifted through space, 2 tiny sparks of human consciousness carrying a solution that might save the galaxy, if only the Council would listen. The rescue ship found them 12 hours later. Wright and her team had drifted in their escape pods, conserving power and oxygen while planning their next moves. When they were brought aboard the Council vessel Swift Messenger, they found Zith. Orb and Palex had also survived. The quantum device, Wright asked immediately, facing Orb in the ship's medical bay. Lost with the luminous harmony, the gelatinous alien replied, its colors shifting to a dull blue, but the Council has others. We need to talk, Wright said firmly. All of us. Now. In the ship's conference room, Wright explained what she had learned from Varaxis, about its true nature as a guardian, the approaching threat of the void between, thoughts and the possible solution involving the wormhole network. Impossible, said Zith, mandibles clicking in agitation. The wormhole gates are essential to Council civilization. Billions depend on them for food, medicine, everything. It would mean the end of rapid interstellar travel for centuries, Wright acknowledged. But which is worse, temporary isolation or complete extinction? Rodriguez displayed calculations on the room's main screen. The theory is sound. If we reverse the polarity of the gates and link them in this pattern, they could create a barrier that strengthens the weak points in reality. The Council will never agree, Orb insisted, rippling with emotion. Pelex, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke. My ancestors' songs speak of such sacrifice. When the void last approached, the precursor species gave up their most precious technology. That was how Varaxis was created in the first place. You knew? Wright asked in surprise. I suspected, Pelex said, but the full records were sealed by the Council long ago. Too many would prefer to forget our humble beginnings and the debts we owe. Winters leaned forward. We need to make them understand. This isn't about politics or convenience. It's about survival. It will take more than words, Zith said. The Council races think in patterns established over millions of years. They cannot easily accept such a radical change. Then we show them, Wright decided. Orb, you're an intelligence specialist. Can you access the classified records Palex I mentioned? The alien hesitated, then bobbed in agreement. Yes. With Pelex's authorization codes, I can bypass the security. And I can help model what will happen if the void breaks through completely, Rodriguez added. The evidence should be undeniable. We have 2 days before we reach the Council station, Wright said. Let's use them well. They worked tirelessly, gathering evidence and preparing their case. Rodriguez and Zith, setting aside their differences, collaborated on a theoretical model showing how the wormhole network could be modified. Winters and Pelex translated ancient records that confirmed Wright's encounter with Varaxis. Orb, despite initial reluctance, provided access to classified Council research that had detected the dimensional weakening years ago. When they arrived at the Council station, they found chaos. News of the failed mission and the destruction of the luminous harmony had spread. Some Council races were already calling for a full military assault on Varaxis. Others were preparing for evacuation to the furthest reaches of the galaxy. Wright and her team were immediately summoned to an emergency Council session. Commander Wright, said the Council leader, looking weary. We understand you made contact with the entity. Tell us what you learned. Wright stood in the center of the great, circular chamber, facing hundreds of alien representatives. She felt the weight of history on her shoulders. Varaxis is not our enemy, she began. It's our guardian, created by your own ancestors to protect all life from a greater threat. Murmurs spread through the chamber, some angry, some confused. The destroyed systems weren't random attacks, Wright continued. They were desperate measures to shore up weakening points in reality. The void between thoughts is breaking through, just as it did millions of years ago when your ancestors created Viraxis to stop it. Preposterous, shouted a council member. These are old myths, not science. Rodriguez stepped forward. Actually, it is science. He projected his data onto the chamber's main display. These are readings from reality fractures forming exactly where Viraxis predicted. The dimensional barrier is failing. And here, added Orb, surprising Wright with its support, are the Council's own classified findings from the past 20 years. The evidence was there all along, but we chose to ignore it. The chamber erupted in shouting and arguments. Wright waited for it to subside. We have a solution, she said, when she could be heard again. But it requires sacrifice, she explained. The plan to modify the wormhole network, turning it from a travel system into a defensive grid. The uproar grew even louder. You ask us to give up the foundation of our civilization, cried one representative. I ask you to save your civilization, Wright replied calmly. The choice is simple but hard. Temporary hardship or permanent extinction. The debate raged for hours. Species that had been enemies for millennia found themselves on the same side, while ancient allies split over the proposed solution. Throughout it all, Wright and her team stood firm, answering questions, providing evidence, and refusing to back down. Finally, a vote was called. The chamber fell silent as the council leader announced the result. By the narrowest of margins, the motion passes. We will implement Commander Wright's plan. The relief Wright felt was short-lived. Now came the hard part, actually making it work. We'll need access to the master control systems for the entire wormhole network, Rodriguez told the council's top scientists. And we'll need to move fast. The fractures are spreading. I can provide the technical specifications, said the lead council scientist, a tall being with multiple eyes. But there's a problem. The network requires simultaneous commands from multiple relay stations. We don't have time to reach them all, Wright thought quickly. The human ships, they're already spread throughout council space. We can use them as relay points. Human ships don't have the necessary equipment, Zith pointed out. But they have human minds, Wright said. And Viraxis showed me that human consciousness can interface with its energy in ways yours can't. If we can establish a connection through Viraxis itself, we might be able to coordinate the entire network at once. A direct neural link with Viraxis? Winters looked concerned. That could overwhelm any mind, even yours. I have to try, Wright said. There's no other way to coordinate a change this massive in time. The plan took shape rapidly. Council engineers worked alongside Rodriguez to modify communication equipment. Wright would return to Viraxis with a specially designed neural interface. If successful, she would serve as a conduit between Viraxis and the wormhole network, allowing the entire system to be reconfigured at once. As they prepared for this final mission, Pellex approached Wright privately. You should know, the avian alien said quietly. There is a high probability you will not survive this connection. The energy involved. I know, Wright said, but billions of lives depend on this working. One life is a small price. Pellex's feathers ruffled in what Wright had come to recognize as respect. My people have a saying, the brightest stars burn shortest. You burn very bright, human. Wright smiled. Let's hope I can burn bright enough. The small ship approached Viraxis once more. This time they came not as strangers but with purpose. Wright sat in a specially designed chamber at the center of the vessel. Wires and sensors covered her body, connecting her to both the ship's systems and the neural interface Rodriguez had built. All human ships are in position, Winters reported from her communication station. 26 vessels spread across council space, ready to act as relay points. The wormhole network is standing, by Zith added. Council engineers have implemented the modifications at all major junction points. Wright nodded. trying to hide her nervousness. Once we establish contact with Varaxis, everything needs to happen simultaneously. The timing has to be perfect. Rodriguez, check the neural interface one last time. This will allow you to process Varaxis's energy patterns and translate them into commands for the network. But the strain on your mind will be... I know, Wright said quietly. Just make sure it works. We'll be monitoring your vital signs, Rodriguez continued. If they drop too low, we'll disconnect you immediately. Wright smiled at her friend. Don't disconnect me until the job is done, no matter what. Promise me. Rodriguez reluctantly nodded. The ship entered Varaxis's energy field. Like before, reality began to change around them. But this time, they were prepared. Stabilizing fields kept the worst effects at bay. We're in position, announced Patel from the pilot's chair. As close as we can safely get. Activate the interface, Wright ordered. Rodriguez pressed a sequence of controls. The neural device on Wright's head hummed to life. She gasped as the first wave of energy flowed through her mind. It was like falling into an ocean of pure thought. Varaxis recognized her immediately. Their consciousnesses touched, human and cosmic entity connecting across an impossible divide. You have returned. With purpose. Yes, Wright managed to say, though her physical voice was barely a whisper. In her mind, the communication was clear. We need your help to stop the void. The Council has agreed to convert the wormhole network. Varaxis understood instantly. Wright felt the entity's relief and determination. It had been fighting alone for so long, weakening as the Council unknowingly drained its energy. The connection must be made through you. Your mind is the bridge. I'm ready, Wright said. What followed was beyond words. Wright's consciousness expanded, beyond her body, beyond the ship, spreading through Varaxis's energy field and outward. She could sense the human ship's position throughout the galaxy, could feel the vast wormhole network spanning countless systems. In the ship, the others watched in awe as data flowed through their systems at impossible speeds. The neural interface glowed with power. Wright's body arched in the chair, her eyes open but seeing something beyond the physical world. Her vital signs are spiking, Rodriguez warned, checking the medical readouts. Heart rate, brain activity, all off the charts. Don't interrupt the connection, Winters said. Look. On their screens, they could see the wormhole network beginning to change. Gates that once connected star systems for travel now linked in new patterns, creating a vast defensive grid. Energy flowed through the transformed network, strengthening the fabric of reality where the void threatened to break through. It's working, breathed Zith in amazement. Wright felt herself stretched across the galaxy, her mind the conduit for Varaxis's power and knowledge. She could see the void now, a darkness between realities hungry and ancient, pushing against the weakened barriers of their universe. She could also see the new defensive grid taking shape, pushing back against the darkness. The pain was immense. No human mind was meant to channel such power. Wright felt herself burning away piece by piece like a star going supernova. But she held on, directing the energy, completing the connections. The sacrifice honors all life, Varaxis communicated, sensing her pain. Is it enough? Wright managed to ask through the fire in her mind. It will hold, for millennia to come. Rest now, Bridgemaker. In the ship, alarms blared as Wright's vital signs crashed. We're losing her, Rodriguez shouted, rushing to disconnect the interface. No. Pelec stopped him. The transfer isn't complete. A few more seconds. On screens across the galaxy, Council scientists watched in amazement as the wormhole network completed its transformation. The reality fractures that had been spreading began to close. The void's pressure eased as the new defensive grid pushed it back beyond the dimensional barriers. In the ship, Wright's body finally went limp as Rodriguez disconnected the interface. Her heart had stopped. Her brain showed no activity. No pulse. Rodriguez said, already beginning emergency procedures. Winters, get the medical kit. They worked frantically to revive her. Minutes passed with no response. Then, just as they were about to give up, Wright gasped. Her eyes fluttered open. "Did it work?" she whispered. "Yes," Winters said, tears in her eyes. "You did it. The network is transformed. The fractures are sealing." Wright smiled weakly. "Varaxis gave me something, before the connection broke." "What?" asked Rodriguez. "Knowledge. About us. About humans." Wright's voice was faint but growing stronger. "We weren't just lucky newcomers to the galaxy. We were planned." "What do you mean?" Zith asked, mandibles clicking in confusion. "Varaxis guided our evolution," Wright explained. "Over millions of years. We were the contingency plan developed to think differently from council races, in case they forgot their purpose, in case Varaxis needed a bridge. The journey back to council space was slow and careful. Wright needed time to recover, her mind and body pushed to their limits and beyond. But with each passing day, she grew, stronger. The knowledge Varaxis had shared settled into her consciousness, no longer overwhelming but enlightening. When they finally reached the council station, they found a changed political landscape. With interstellar travel severely limited by the network's transformation, the council races were adapting to a new reality of greater self-sufficiency. Some planets struggled with the transition, but all of them were alive and would remain, so protected from the void. The human team was welcomed as heroes. Council representatives who had once dismissed humans as primitives now looked to them with new respect and, in some cases, a new understanding of their shared origins. "The Council has created a new position," Ambassador Kazir told Wright when she was strong enough to attend a formal meeting. "Director of Cosmic Defense, they would like you to fill it." "I'm just a space commander," Wright said, "not a politician." "You are the bridge between species now," Kazir said. "Between old knowledge and new thinking. The Council needs that perspective." Wright thought about it, about the responsibility, about the future, about what Varaxis had shown her, humanity's true purpose in the galaxy. "I'll accept," she said finally, "on one condition. We establish a special training program for humans who can serve as communicators with Varaxis when it eventually awakens again." 5 years later, Wright stood before the first graduating class of the Varaxis Communication Corps. 50 humans trained in the techniques she had developed based on her experience with the cosmic entity. Their faces were young, eager, ready to take on the responsibility of serving as bridges between different forms of consciousness. "You are inheritors of an ancient legacy," Wright told them, "not just human, but cosmic. When our ancestors looked to the stars, they never imagined that we were already part of them, that our very minds were shaped to serve a purpose in the greater universe." She looked out at the stars visible through the station's massive windows. Somewhere out there, Varaxis slept again, recovering its strength. The void still pressed against reality, but the barriers held strong, and humanity had found its place in the cosmos, not as latecomers begging for acceptance, but as essential partners in the galaxy's continued survival. "The stars may be harder to reach now," Wright concluded, "but our true frontier was never just physical space. It was understanding of ourselves, of others, of the universe itself. That frontier remains as vast and unexplored as ever, and we've only just begun the journey."